Hello everyone, this is Helios Raven. I tell you how you do it, even if you don't care. And today we're going to be looking at my personally favorite army in the Battlefleet Gothic universe, which is the Eldar force. Now, with Gothic, Eldar were treated more like pirate raiders, so these weren't really Craft World affiliated Eldar space vessels, which is why they kind of looked really funky from the drawings that you've seen in like the Eldar Codex and such, because they were more designed to be outcasted Eldar that didn't really take part in any of the Craft World systems. And in retrospect, the Eldar are one of the more harder armies to play because they function a little bit differently. So they're not a really great starter army, but they are very fun to play because they have a lot of cheap rules, as are well known for the Eldar. And they are very challenging and require a different kind of play. First off, with their special rules that we're going to talk about, is they have a +1 to their leadership when generating their leadership on the leadership table, which means they have a minimum of 7 on a leadership and a maximum of 10. Also, because of their unique turning and movement rules, the Eldar are not allowed to use the all-ahead full special rule, the burn retros, the come to new heading special rules. And because they can't use all-ahead full, they may not perform ram actions, which kind of makes sense because the Eldar are very squishy, as we'll find out later. Now, with Eldar movement, Eldar are the second fastest army in the game. When the Battlefleet Gothic first came out, they were the fastest army in the game. But now, later on, when they introduced more forces, there was one force that I think is a little bit faster than them, so they kind of lost out and became second fastest army in the entire game. But what they get is they have special movement, which is one Eldar get 2 movements each of their turns in the game. They get 1 in their movement phase, and then 1 again in their ordnance phase after all ordnance have moved. So what this means is Eldar get the ability to move twice. But they can't do it on the opponent's ordnance phase. They only do it on their own ordnance phase. And when it comes to their turning, they don't get any special turning features where they have to turn 35 degrees, 45 degrees. Eldar are allowed to turn 360 degrees in any direction they want, but at that point they're stuck going in that direction, and they have to then fly forward in that direction for the remainder of the game, and then they get to another turn for their ordnance phase and move on. If they perform the lock-on special order, they cannot turn in either of their movement phases no matter what. Now, Eldar also have a unique speed in their case. They have actually 3 speeds. One which is determined by usually represented by slashes, usually, for example, like 10, 20, 30. The first number, being 10, was representing of their movement phase when the sun's edge of the table is in their front arc. The second number, the 20, would be when the sun arc is in their rear, and the sun is in their rear arc. And the third number, the 30, is when the sun edge is on their side arc. Now, if the sun edge touches 2 arcs, then the Eldar player gets to choose which speed he's going to use. And also, Eldar have no minimum move distance. They can move 0 to maximum distance allowed at any time. And so basically they can either sit still or they can move forward. They're really annoying when that front, so a lot of people really hate them. As you saw in that one game, I kept moving back left and right, and the Tau player Phil couldn't keep up with my ships because of their unique movement capabilities. Also, the Eldar have special rules against blast markers. The Eldar have technically their shields function in such a way where when they're touched by a blast marker, they count as being a ship with no shields, meaning they reduce their speed by 5 and they roll a d6, and on a roll of a 6 they take a point of damage. Now, they only make this roll once, no matter how many blast markers they come in contact with. And with gravity wells against like planets and such, Eldar still get their free turn. They get to make a free turn towards the planet at the end of their movement. So that's how that functions in that sense. And one thing is the Eldar have what's called Eldar holofields, which is the one thing that everybody hates about the Eldar. Why? Because they protect them from almost everything except for they do not negate the effects of moving through blast markers, area effects like asteroid fields. That was one thing I was doing wrong in my battle report. Exploding ships, again, another thing I was doing wrong in my battle report, and celestial phenomena, and the Black Fortress. Those are the only things that the Eldar shields cannot protect them from. But they get a protection from everything else. If they're getting attacked by land shots, ordnance attacks, hit-and-run raids, boarding actions, rammings, Nova cannons, or also the Armageddon gun, because that is affected by shields as well. If they're hit by any of those kinds of weapons, the Eldar get to roll 1d6. On a roll of a 1, they are hit. On a roll of a 2 or a 6, the Eldar ship ignores the attack. And that's basically it. So the Eldar get a 2+ save for practically everything, except for the mentioned weapons. Now, with Nova cannons, they only roll once against the hit itself. So, if the Nova cannon shot hits it and the center touches the Eldar ship, and they fail the first holofield save, they do not get an additional save for each d6 hit. They lost. That they get all 6 hit. They get all hits rolled on them at that point. And the other thing, though, this is where the Eldar holofields fail them, is against weapon batteries. This is why the best tactic against Eldar is to get really up close to them and broadside them, because that's where their weakest is. When attacking Eldar with weapons on the gunnery table, the holofields do a one column shift to the right, which with any other addition column shifts for range and blast markers and such. And so this basically means the Eldar just make you lose a couple of dice, and then you can just really just wail on them, because their armor is only 4, so it's really, really easy to wound the Eldar, which is why you noticed in the battle report I kept keeping my distance from Phil's ships, because I didn't want to get in contact with his weapon batteries, because that's when he would have really killed me in the long run. And also, another sad thing is Eldar are critted on a 4 instead of a 6. So, not only are they hit on a 4, they're also crit on a 4. So if you got a weapon battery and you roll 5 hits, that's 5 potential criticals, and it's really easy to crit on Eldar. So, what's another benefit to the holofields, you say, is also the holofields never collapse. So the ship can have 20 blast markers on them, and it still gets to roll its holofield. Yes, I forgot to mention, every time you miss because of a holofield shot, you place a blast marker down on the ship. So it's just impossible to get rid of these shields unless, on the critical damage table, you roll a holofield generator destroyed, because the Eldar have their own special critical hit damage table. But still, you need to roll a 10 to get that, so it's really hard to get rid of their shields. And all in all, that's really why a lot of people don't like the Eldar. They have their nasty movements, so they get to run around the whole board and just go, woohoo, you can't touch me. And then they've got that ridiculously awesome armor save, which allows them to practically save almost against every hit. Unless they're having a really bad day, it's very hard to hit the Eldar unless you fight them with weapon batteries, which is their Achilles heel in the long run. Or if you have a Blackstone Fortress and you just fire at them with the Nova Cannon. And that's basically what we can talk about for the Eldar in their introduction. Like I said, they're a great advanced army. For a beginner, I wouldn't really recommend the Eldar, because you're probably not going to enjoy the fact that you're really squishy forces, and when we talk about their weaponry, you'll see why you may not enjoy them so much. But as a general, fun, different, unique army to play, they are really, really enjoyable to play, and I have to admit that the Eldar are by far one of the more fun armies to play, which is why I kind of like them. And they're also the second fastest army, and they have some pretty nasty toys that we're going to talk about in our next video. So, that's it for now. Until next time, this is Helios Raven, signing off.